In this video we are going to talk about Battlegrounds class balance adjustments. But first, I want to say rest in peace to most of the builds that use dash skills because one of the Necromancer essences got buffed to counter dash skills. Actually, let's start with that. Before we move on, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. You might know this essence from my Necromancer PvP build. We already use this essence as it is, and it just got even better. The Immobilize effect additionally prevents the use of dash skills for its duration. This says it all. This essence will be a problem for all other classes that use dash skills. Finally, people were settling down against the Necromancer hate, and it is coming right away. With the current build Necromancers use, you can spam your Corpse Lance, and now when you are immobilized, you are not going to be able to go anywhere with your dash skills between Corpse Lance hits with this change. If you ask me, I am quite happy with this essence because playing Necromancer is my favorite, so I'm going to have a lot of fun. Since the new 2-star gem is not that good, finally I will be able to add a rank 10 Curse link to my build as well, so it is really going to be annoying to play against the setup I'm planning. Anyways, let's check out the other changes for Necromancer, and we are going to talk about other classes as well, including Blood Knight nerfs. Command Golem Essence. Great Helm of Deflection is buffed too. The duration of harmful effects is no longer split equally between you and the Golem. Instead, the Golem takes 2/3 of the duration. Well, this is good if you are using your Golem in PvP activities. Bone Wall Essence Bloodless Hierophant got a little buff too, and the damage bonus increased from 40 to 50%. Corpse Lance Essence Silvered Wings' base damage of the lance launched by your empowered primary attack is increased by 27%. Damage can increase further depending on corpses consumed, up to a maximum of plus 50% at 6 corpses. Necromancer's primary attacks are very hard to use because they rarely hit the enemy, so this is not going to be used in PvP that much, and we already have summoner builds for PvE, and we have some changes to the Bone Spirits essences. Soul Levy cooldown reduced from 9 seconds to 6 seconds. Spirits are now released 50% faster. Drifter's Fair's cooldown reduced from 12 to 9 seconds. In conclusion, the only meaningful change for Necromancer is that helmet essence I talked about at the start of the video. Others are not that crazy or important. Now, let's talk about Blood Knight. First, they are adding a second to Skewer essence. The Besalver cooldown increased from 9 seconds to 10 seconds. On top of that, the shield you get from Transfusion gets nerfed as well. Transfusion's shield amount reduced by 15%. These are the nerfs that Blood Knight is getting with this update. They are not that big, but these small numbers sometimes really create changes in the battlegrounds. Other than that, of course, there are some buffs to a few essences. For example, Tendrils of Blood Essence Venerated Closeness cooldown reduced from 9 to 6 seconds. Siphon Blood Essence White Veil's damage bonus per each affected enemy increased from 10% to 15%. Whirling Strike Essence Bardic of Below's cooldown reduced from 9 to 6 seconds. And finally, Abomination Essence Bloody Concession's bleed damage increased by 50%. I don't really want to go over all of the essence changes for all classes, so I will only highlight a few of them. If you want to check all, I will leave the link in the description. For example, Demon Hunter Knife Trap changes are pretty nice. Explosion effects are no longer delayed, which is quite good. And they kind of nerfed the escape spam as well. Cooldown reduction per instance of damage taken has changed a little bit. And when you take a look at the changes for Monk, we are seeing a lot of damage increases for different skills and essences. I guess they are planning to remove Monk from life support after all. Probably these changes won't be enough, but we will see. And these are the changes for other classes like Crusader, Wizard, and Barbarian. Since we are talking about class-based things, let's mention some of the Eternal Equipment affixes as well. We already talked about these, but maybe some of you might have missed it. Barbarian has some cool ones like Undying Rage reduces negative effect duration by 20%. And Wrath of Berserker has a 10% chance to trigger an explosion every 0.5 seconds, causing 14,000 damage to all nearby enemies. When you take a look at Blood Knight, this one sounds really good. Skewer applies 8% armor penetration for 3 seconds. I think Crusader has some good ones as well. During Conjuration of Light, your movement speed is increased by 8%. Draw and Quarter has a 10% chance of generating an explosion dealing 16,000 damage for every 2 meters moved. Demon Hunter has very strong options like Knockback Shot deals an additional 3% damage for each meter of distance from the enemy, up to a maximum of 6 meters. Sentry has a 10% chance to fire an additional bolt dealing 24,000 damage to struck enemies. And there are some other good ones as well. I'm not sure how useful Monk affixes are going to be because it's been a while since I played with Monk, so I don't know. And when it comes to Necromancer, I was expecting something more exciting than the ones we got. Corpse Lance increases your movement speed by 10% for 3 seconds. Sounds great, and the summon ones can be really good for PvE and maybe for PvP with certain builds. And Wizard got some good ones too. Lightning Nova increases attack speed by 8% for 3 seconds. Arcane Wind range increased by 8%. And there are other usable ones too. I just read a few from each class. By the way, these affixes can also be found on items with 1 to 3 magic affixes that drop from Terror Rifts, Oblivion Pillars, and Hellslayer bounties. That's all the changes we got related to class balance adjustments. We will talk about the other stuff we are going to get with this new update in a different video. Thanks for tuning in and take care.